Welcome to SVG-TV News for Monday, February 8th, 2016. I am Jennifer Richardson with the details. Fresh from his visit to Dubai, Prime Minister Dr. Rav Gonsalves at a media conference today described the Geothermal Project to be undertaken here as his government's commitment towards renewable energy. Dr. Gonsalves, who was responsible for energy affairs, told members of the media at Cabinet Room that the US $15 million loan to be used for the project from the Arab nation is cheap money, which the government has 20 years to repay at 2% interest with a 5-year grace period.
St. Vincent and Grenadines' geothermal project was one of the 5 to be funded, and it's a loan for 20 years, 5 years grace at 2% interest, and so it's cheap money, and that is part of our contribution to the project, which, as you know, we have 2 other partners, Reykjavik Geothermal and Emera Caribbean.
Dr. Gonsalves further states that it is his hope that by April 2019, the plant will be commissioned along with the installation of 3 production wells.
And I discussed with the fund the prospects of additional monies, and they're open both for the geothermal project and for other developmental work. But this is the first funding which we are getting from the fund. So as soon as we begin the process for the drawdown, which would occur after we have drilled the first well, because as you know, as I'd indicated before, we are going to do 3 production wells in addition to an injection well. The injection well is to put back water into the ground.
The Prime Minister also announced that from his trip to Dubai, a mission from that Arab nation will soon visit St. Vincent and the Grenadines on matters pertaining to investment, among other initiatives. He further outlined that between St. Vincent and the Grenadines and Dubai, 3 agreements are already being drafted in areas such as double taxation, investment protection, and civil aviation.
Look at a number of investment possibilities and certain other areas of cooperation. We have agreed that we will sign 3 agreements, 1 dealing with investment protection, 1 with civil aviation, and the 3rd with a double taxation agreement. These draft agreements are already in the state administration here, and the state officials are providing all the requisite advice. I don't see any difficulties with any of these agreements, so very shortly we would address them to strengthen the relations between ourselves and Dubai.
Dr. Gonsalves, who is also Minister of Finance, further outlined that this country will be establishing a permanent diplomatic presence in Dubai. He noted that it is prudent fiscal practice to establish relations with one of the fastest growing economies in the world.
Dubai had provided a building for CARICOM countries who would wish to establish a permanent diplomatic presence to do so, and no one has yet taken up the offer. But I know that there are several governments which have shown an interest, and we would, over the next few months, seek to put a permanent presence in Dubai. Oil now provides 30% of their gross domestic product. They've diversified immensely into tourism and banking and finance and shipping. I mean, Dubai airport is the busiest airport in the world now, the figures that I've seen.
And SVG Television was today again taken to task by Prime Minister Gonsalves for what he termed biased news coverage. SVG-TV's reporter Sharon Garway, who was at the media conference, engaged the Prime Minister on the matter and spoke out in defense of the organization.
First time that journalists would misrepresent me, and I don't suspect it would be the last time either. Some of them do it with political biases. This one was done. For instance, SVG-TV treats me they have an anti-Ralph, a pro-NDP bias. I mean, there's no question in my mind about it. They're free to do it, but I'm free to talk about it. All right? I've complained about it, but there's no improvement, so I'll continue to talk about it. So they could continue to bash me. They could do whatever they want to do. They could give the leader of the opposition excessive coverage at nights when he's talking all kind of foolishness and downplay what I say. That's their business. But it is also my business for me to talk freely. Just by the way, SVG did a special interview with me for about 10 to 15 minutes about a month or so ago. It hasn't seen the light of day, as I've been advised. I just wanted to, and they were so anxious. They pulled me out from my office where I was doing things. So they want it. They came here and they did it. It hasn't seen the light of day yet. I tell you something, Sharon. If anybody does an objective analysis of SVG-TV broadcasts, they will come inescapably to the conclusion that I have come to.
Well, the thing is, if we do carry all government work, then we will be called a state entity.
But I am not saying to carry all government work.
So we must be able to carry all.
Explain to me. Explain to me.
The government side.
Yes.
So if we don't do that, we are a state entity.
No.
We are a state entity.
Explain to me.
Entity, Prime Minister.
I know you're a private entity. You are a private entity, and I wouldn't expect the broadcasting, the National Broadcasting Corporation to carry government stuff.
The Prime Minister further went on to chide the company for conducting an interview with him that was never broadcast. He accused SVG-TV of trying to appease him after giving biased reporting throughout the elections. This was, however, refuted by Garway, who pointed out to the Prime Minister that the interview which was conducted will be part of a series of interviews with different leaders during Heritage Month.
Say this. You want to tell me, and I raised with you when you came and you did that interview with me.
Which will be aired as part of a series of interviews with leaders in the country for March Heritage Month. We've done interviews with you, we've done interviews with Bailey Spedrick, we've done interviews with Commander Kane, we've done interviews as well
with the great
leader, which is part of a program we plan to have sponsorship with and release in March for Heritage.
But with great respect. No, with great respect. When you interviewed me, it wasn't for that. It was for something to be carried immediately because it was in part to redress the imbalance of the SVG news for the previous 2 weeks. Because what you and I spoke about has nothing to do with heritage. Don't mama guy me with that. Don't mama guy me with that.
Garway further explained that efforts were continuously made to get him, as well as the supervisor of elections, for interviews on several matters, but were denied. The Prime Minister further replied that it was within his right to refuse an interview.
Prime Minister, we have a responsibility to carry things. If there's a protest in town, we cannot pretend it.
I am not saying you not to carry a protest.
Must carry issues that affect the country.
Okay.
When we do come to you and find out your perspective, I must say respectfully, we were turned away.
Which perspective
We were turned away from you when you told us you will not be talking to us.
Absolutely. Absolutely, because you came to talk to me after you have carried all your biases.
Several times you refused to speak with us. So there was a time when we made us
after you have carried all the biases. I'm glad the public is hearing this.
Efforts to have two sides to the story.
Not at all.
Former head of the Catholic Church here, now serving as head of the Diocese of Barbados, Bishop Jason Gordon, has expressed concern about persons elevating politicians and their political parties above God. In a sit-down interview with the bishop as he ended his tenure in this country to take up residency in the Barbados district, The man of the cloth expressed unease with what he says is the way that radical political party fanaticism is breeding injustice and discord in countries throughout the Caribbean.
One of the things that we have done is we've replaced religion with politics. And sometimes I believe that politics occupies the place that God alone should occupy. And we have elevated the political realm to such a level that it actually has become an idolatry. So that people are willing to do for politics what they should never do, because that has become their God. And once you replace the God with anything else, and once you bring idolatry into it, you're going to have injustice, human suffering, strife, contention, and lack of harmony in any society.
Bishop Gordon also spoke of his discontentment with the way in which he says financial bribery is exploiting persons for economic survival.
The other thing we have done is we put money in the same place that God should be too. And once you put money and politics in the same place with God, then we have very strange bedfellows that would mean that our value system becomes a very crude form of getting things done, and a very crude form of getting rich or dying trying. 50 Cent said it best. And so we have these strange things we've done. Now, I'm tying all of this back to my first comments, that we're still in the early form of our democracy. And because we haven't really put the deep foundations in place, we are supplementing those foundations for things that are more immediate, more tangible, because if I'm in the right political party, I could get a work, I could get a loan, I could get a scholarship, I could get a this, and we have inherited a British system which was based on patronage, and we have exploited patronage to its extreme extent, so that if you're in the right political party, you're going to get patronage, in the wrong one, you ain't getting no patronage. So who in power? Their people getting.
Local agronomist Clive Bishop is encouraging the continued cultivation of bananas, as well as the legal cultivation and trade of marijuana for more sustainable development in SVG. Bishop was at the time speaking on Sunday's Hit Talk program that discussed the possibilities that would be derived from marijuana legalization, and compared the plant with banana in a bid to determine which crop will lead SVG into a greater future. The agronomist states that it is public knowledge by now that for the last 15 to 20 years, marijuana has always been a taboo subject, but for the persons up to date in following international developments, this taboo has been removed scientifically, socially, developmentally, and in other ways in more recent times. Bishop adds that leading economies and societies have proved beyond a doubt that there are positive values, medicinal, industrial, and otherwise, for the marijuana plant.
I don't really see the sense in saying an either or to marijuana or bananas. Now, it is said that context plus problems gives opportunity. And the context we are looking at here in the Caribbean today is one where we are looking at sustainable development paradigm and the integrated assessment approach. We have three basic things in the Caribbean that affects the entire Caribbean: food, health, and energy security. And both those commodities fall into that context. So you have to look at the opportunities for utilizing both of these commodities in the context that we have.
Additionally, Bishop says that with the overhanging threat of climate change, it is imperative that SVG considers the legal cultivation of marijuana, which he says could be a very profitable, resilient crop.
And so we also have climate change breathing down our neck, where they say that in the next 20 or 30 years, the Caribbean will be one of the hottest areas on earth. And we could face between 25 and 35% decrease in our rainfall. So all these things bring it into the context that it's imperative for us to use crops, all crops, which have an advantage of resilience to climate change and are also eco-friendly. And that is where I think the marijuana fits in.
Minister of Transport, Works, Urban Development and Local Government, Senator Julian Francis, says the cleanup project in capital Kingston, which he announced in Parliament on Friday the 29th January, will be an ongoing exercise to ensure that old habits are not repeated. In a telephone interview with SVG-TV, Francis explained that the town board has notified the vendors in the city of the cleanup campaign, and they have and will continue to be in consultation with them. He said the cleanup campaign began over the weekend with the clearing of several drains and at dump sites. Senator Francis explained that several of the white goods, such as abandoned refrigerators and stoves, have also been removed from around the city. The local government minister called on persons to be cooperative as the cleanup campaign will be done in phases. Those in Little Tokyo expressed how they felt or how they feel about the cleanup campaign in the city. We get more from SVG-TV Sharon Gawe.
Say it would be good, but don't move my ice box because me have nowhere for carry it. You know, because it's only here I there.
The cleanup operations, would you be cooperating? How do you feel?
I'm feeling good, and if they want help, I could help them too. If they want me come on Sunday time and help them throw some of them old benches they have in the place, I will do
the place clean up good. I'll be very thankful for clean up properly. Yeah, but I just no clean up. I only hear this morning that they clean up, so I don't know.
They want to urinate. It's right there they go in, and there's always a problem, and they can't talk to them and tell them nothing. So now they're cleaning up, but it must continue. Because when they start cleaning up, it doesn't stay at that. They come back and do the same thing. They need to put security guard around so that when they throw stuff up in there, they will need to move it.
I very clean. I will do the first cleaning before. I pay somebody to get rid of them, rid of the things them. And I asked him 2 Sundays ago for dead nights in front of my business. Now I need it far away from me. But I don't know who has studied it, but I studying it because I'm very clean about it.
Problem inside there with the vending carrying on, the way the people urinate in and around Little Tokyo, stolen around Little Tokyo. Mr. Julian Francis has promised us for many years ago to get Little Tokyo clean up, and up to today's date we're still awaiting.
In my shop here, I can't stand the stench of the pee in that corner, and it's right by the corner by my shop there. And you can't talk to the men when they go there and pee, they will curse you. So I'll be glad if you can do that, and maybe every week I send somebody to look around and see what we need and everything wrong here.
Depends on what, if it's the garbage, it is okay. But to interfere with the vendors, they have to prepare and find somewhere to put the vendors before they do that. I don't mind the cleanup.
Town need cleanup. But if Julian alone want to do it, he alone can't. Come to the people. Talk to the people, and then we go come together and decide what we...
Yes, I think it's a good gesture. The town really needed to clean up for you, especially with them big rats. Sometimes I was sitting here and a rat just run and like it tell me, excuse me, miss. So thanks very much to Mr. Julian for the cleanup of the town. Thank you.
We continue as the Ministry of Tourism, the SVG National Trust, the Forestry Department, as well as local organizations celebrate the opening of the first Indigenous dwelling at the Argyle Cultural Heritage Site. Members of the Greg's Rastafari Progressive Society have expressed their gratitude for being allowed the opportunity to build on the culture and heritage of St. Vincent and the Grenadines. Members of the organization worked alongside the archaeology team from the Leiden University in Holland on the project and was able to gain knowledge on the material and tools used by the indigenous people. They are expected to aid the Ministry of Tourism in building the remaining dwelling at the Argyle site. Speaking with SVG-TV News on Friday at the opening of the first Indigenous hut, Vice President of the Greg's Rastafari Progressive Society, Ajit Duncan, says his organization has always aimed at building knowledge and awareness of Vincentian history and culture, and considers the project of great importance to St. Vincent and the Grenadines.
Rastafari Progressive Society this has always been us. It's in our blood, in our genes. It's what we do. But with the help of these foreign people from Holland, they came, and the archaeologists and other scientists came and make sure that we know exactly how the village used to be back then. That that in itself is a great achievement for our whole nation, St. Vincent and the Grenadines as whole, because we never knew as to how the shape of the hut, how they used to be, what the materials they used to use. And in terms of pottery, we tend to obtain different pottery from different islands, but what the pottery you see here are actually our own pottery from St. Vincent and the Grenadines.
Another member of the group, Philman Javi Batiste, says they are grateful for the opportunity to add to the knowledge of Vincentian history and considers the project important to all Vincentians.
Indigenous work, as we're looking at here today, is something that within the population, well, not really population of St. Vincent, but my village in the whole, Gregs, because this is our heritage, right where we're here today. And I feel so proud to really tell you about our history, building this hut, which we are here right now, is doing a little work on this hut and put it this way, like, make sure you all are St. Vincent know we're going on to. So right now, we go say now, as in St. Vincent right now, you only group really we got the skills to do this work right now. Is the Great Rastafari Progressive Society.
This country's Chief Magistrate Rayshon Brown has expressed concern over the late arrival of police officers and defendants at the Serious Offences Court. The concern was expressed earlier today during the sitting of the court when the defendants and police were not present in court. As a result, the magistrate was forced to adjourn court for approximately 15 minutes to facilitate their arrival. When the sitting resumed following the arrival of the defendants and police, the magistrate told the police that the Kingston Magistrate Court is not sitting presently and advised that persons who are scheduled to appear in that court should do so in a timely manner. In response, Chief Prosecutor Adolphus Delper said that time is of essence and the law stipulates when court should begin at 9 a.m. on any given day. MacArthur Leach and Dexter Stowe, both of Beckway, have been sentenced to 6 years behind bars on a joint charge of gun and ammunition possession on January 30, 2016 at Beckway. The sentence was handed down by Chief Magistrate Rayshon Brown at the Serious Offences Court this morning after both defendants were found guilty for having in their possession one semi-automatic pistol and 5 rounds of ammunition without a license. The court heard that the pistol and ammunition were discovered at the home of Leach in Port Elizabeth, Beckway, when 2 members of the Rapid Response Unit carried out a search. And 18-year-old Andy John, a laborer of Lower Kettles, was arrested and charged for causing grievous bodily harm to 18-year-old Dexter Pope, a resident of the same address. The charge stemmed from a fracas which developed into an altercation on January 31st, 2016, when John reportedly inflicted multiple stab wounds to the body of Pope, which resulted in severe injuries. When John appeared at the Serious Offences Court earlier today, Chief Prosecutor Adolphus Delpesh objected to his bail, informing the Chief Magistrate that the victim, Pope, is presently a patient at the male surgical ward at the Milton Cato Memorial Hospital and is constantly being monitored by the doctors there. According to prosecutor, before the accused is granted bail, he will need a written report from doctors regarding Pope's improvement. As a result, John was remanded into custody until February 15, 2016 to have his bail reviewed.